Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Football Uncensored podcast with myself, Rob Kirton, and John Sitton. Just very quickly before we go into things, it's a bit of a milestone day today. It's the anniversary of the Battle of Trafalgar, as we all know.
Yeah.
1805, Nelson's greatest victory, but unfortunately demise. But it is also another milestone today. Evening, John. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, 65 today. Yeah. I had a good lovely meal yesterday with the wife and the children and the grandchildren. My son come back from his business abroad, and then just had a lovely meal tonight. The girl sent me some nice messages, and I'll tell you what's been nice is like the overwhelming love shown on um beg your pardon on Twitter, and the lovely kind messages, well, X as it's now called, and got a couple of WhatsApp messages from ex-teammates and a couple of ex-players. So yeah, it was really nice. And yeah,
Very nice.
one of the others I see on the road, you know what I mean? So he knows. Yeah, so it's a bit of a milestone, being 65, but still got to go to work tomorrow because no winter allowance.
Oh, all right. Moving,
We
moving
won't go there.
swiftly
Yeah,
on.
different
Moving
podcast. Yeah.
Moving swiftly on, very swiftly on. Sticking with the theme of thank yous and acknowledgements, just quickly like to take the time to thank everyone for continuing to watch even after our little sabbatical. So we did an episode last week. It's got some nice comments so far. Thank you very much. Please continue to comment and share and show your mates, show your workmates, show your mates down the pub, show your family. Get everyone to please like, share, subscribe, whatever else there is on X or Twitter to do. We're going to try and, on this episode, focus on a recent managerial appointment that caused a couple of news stories. Thomas Tuchel being appointed as England manager pretty much this time a week ago. Seemed a little bit all of a sudden, but we're going to go through a few questions for John and get John's view on it because that's what we all want to hear. So I guess my opening question to you, John, there's a lot of side issues and things that come off Tuchel's actual appointment, but what do you make as a pure standalone appointment as manager, trying to ignore the corridors to go down? What do you make of him as a pure standalone appointment as a manager?
Well, all coaches start with their qualifications. Some break off and have different philosophies. I'm going to answer it in the respect that very rarely does anyone know much more than anyone else. It's a game based very much on plagiarism and interpretation. And then, because I've had this discussion with people before about other high-profile, supposedly top-draw managers who are working with top-draw players in terms of them being the best in the world in their position or the best in Europe, etc. And they go, yeah, but they've earned the right to get to that stage. Well, if you look at their, in inverted commas, pathway, he earned the right to work with some top players, particularly at Chelsea. The general consensus, although, you know, I should imagine people just jump on the bandwagon because very few have seen him work. The general consensus is he's a decent coach, and he knows how to nick a result. So sort of stand alone in terms of like qualification, kudos, status, profile, whatever, then you could argue that the appointment was okay. I'll tell you what, I had a couple of visitors today. What was nice today, it's funny, my missus was working today and I said, well, I'll go and do a little bit of shopping. I was only going to get a few knickknacks. I ended up getting a trolley load, you know what I mean? But as I'm going around the supermarket, I had although it's my birthday today, I had a cracking long day yesterday, and I just treated today more or less like a normal day, other than the fact that I've had a day off from work because it is my birthday. I got recognised in the supermarket, and we're having a chat.
For a good reason, I hope.
Well, just nice. It was just nice. The guy just recognised me. He came to the evening with that we did at Leighton Orient with Adrian Durham of Talksport. He bought 3 copies of my first book. He's kept going on about you've got to get your second book out. I'm looking forward to this, and we was talking about different bits and pieces. Well, then I came home and I had a couple of visitors, and a couple of people like dropping a card in and all the rest of it. And I thought, what? It was a great point, like because I was meant to meet them, but I come home from the restaurant last night. I just couldn't move. I ate so much food, and I had a couple of cheeky martinis, and there was wine on the table. This and that. I just thought I just couldn't go down the thing. But they was having a discussion down the pub, and here's the thing, right? We were trying. He said we were trying to work out who the 10 who the 10 were, who were the 10 candidates. He said, and we couldn't muster 10 names. So I would love to have known who the other people who were running for the job. Eddie Howe said he weren't interviewed.
Exactly.
Potter said he weren't interviewed, or maybe he was, or maybe he wasn't, or maybe he's just playing it coy because there might be something further down the road for him. So the bottom line is we were struggling to and then you got Tuchel who was appointed. Well, that leaves 7. So who could the other 7 have been? 8 if you take Eddie Howe at face value and take him at his word, which I'm sure you can. Who were the other candidates? So you say standalone appointment, but I think there's a few things at play here, and one of them is the fact that there was possibly a shortage of candidates. And they've got, and then the guys worded it as in, some people didn't look like they were up for the, didn't show the appetite that they were up for the job, and he did. But which I find hard to believe if it's the England national team manager's job. But there's a lot of questions. Inevitably, they won't see that it won't be answered. The answer won't see the light of day. And there's also a lot historically that won't see the light of day, because I go back to 88, prelims and all that. Then you start staffing courses below you. I was in and around all of it. 1994 badge, start staffing courses below that, and then UEFA conversion. I was in the inaugural group in 1997, the first lot that ever went up there, and staffing courses below that. Then you're looking at the prices of the qualifications compared to abroad. There's a lot of stuff to answer.
I mean, what you said there, obviously, they did a press conference. I don't know where it was held, but it certainly wasn't Wembley. But Tuchel was, obviously the ultimate diplomat in the interview, because there was a not in the interview, the press conference, because there was a couple of daft questions asked, obviously, which we don't really want to go into here, like is he going to sing the anthem? Like, who cares really? But like
I'll care.
Okay, well you say
this is with the thing with Carsley. He was capped by the Republic of Ireland, and he said he won't be singing the national anthem. This comes to the crux of the matter, and it's a well-worn, even a cliche now. To the extent where it's been used so much time, it should be the best of ours against the best of theirs. And the other guy somehow managed to get his way into the FA and become an FA coach. I think it's a sad indictment on young English coaches, the fact that there was no one available. I think at every age group, it should be someone English in charge of the England team, whether it's under 17, under 21, B, full. He, like you say, diplomatically sidestepped it, going off at a tangent ever so slightly, but it ties in with it. In the past, there's times when he's been very prickly with the press and a bit abrasive and a bit of a short fuse. At the moment, he's in a situation where he's justifying himself. And like you say, he was very diplomatic. He I thought he handled it superbly. He came across really, really well. A couple of things I can't make out. Or one thing will materialise. I don't think he'll be as diplomatic and as friendly if he don't hit the ground running and we get a couple of bad results and the media are baying for him. because inevitably, it don't matter who it is, you could have the the patience of a saint. I think most people will become defensive and try and find. Then they'll look for holes in the argument with regards to his plea of defence. If we do get beat and we don't get off to a good start with him, but like basically the other thing, I'm looking at it, I'm thinking to myself, like in terms of the national anthem and all the rest of it, yeah, I'm not being a little Englander, to quote another pal of mine on his interview when it was done, Adrian Durham. But I do happen to believe that it should be the best of ours against the best of theirs, and I don't see it reciprocated. I don't think you'd get an English coach purely and simply because they've got a better system and they've got more belief in their system, which we've never had, and it's full of hypocrisy and contradictions, and it reflects life and society in general in this country and governance. I don't think it'd be reciprocated where you'll have an Englishman in charge of Germany, or an Englishman in charge of Spain, or an Englishman in charge of Italy, or an Englishman in charge of France. Yeah, which we were talking about earlier, combined forces of France and Spain. It's like it's still going on, where they come to, give us a slap and overrun us. And then you do start, because I'll defend our history constantly in the cab. Like I had a Yank giving me the rub down about the Industrial Revolution, and I shredded him. Then he started again about the British Empire. I shredded him again. But very rarely will you see it reciprocated, whereby one of ours will go abroad, unless it's, dare I say it, with all due respect to a developing football nation or a third world footballing nation. I'll give you, for instance, a guy who I knew really well and come up against him many times, Wally Downs. I think he went and did a bit, and maybe still doing a bit, I'm not sure, in Jamaica. So you'd count that as a developing football nation, but it definitely wouldn't happen with a high-profile trophy-winning country, and it doesn't seem to be the fact. And that leads me to where the FA have got to be questioned. I mean, if you look at the qualifications, I was shocked. I didn't even know there was such a thing as like a precursor to the UEFA B, like a UEFA C. I think that was round. You'll have to forgive me, because I'm working from memory, and I see it a couple of days ago. And someone said this is one of the main reasons why, and I think it had qualifications in the equivalent coaching license in Germany and Spain was something like €596. Well, our UEFA C is about £500, and UEFA B, £900 to £1,000.
Yeah, 960.
UEFA A was up around the £3,000 odd mark.
Yeah.
And then the UEFA Pro £9,000.
Yeah,
Which,
just under 10.
having been up there and looked at the syllabus, I'm going back to '97 because I haven't been back since. And what happened was I refused to go back to get a teaching certificate and do a 2-week course while I was on the dole studying for the knowledge. Be away from my family for another 2 weeks on top of the previous 2 weeks and the previous 2 weeks before that, and all the prep courses. I refused to do it again to get a certificate to teach courses that I'd already been teaching for 9 years. And they said, well, yeah, it's just so you can show that you're willing to thing and you get the qualification. I said, well, I've already got the qualification. I said, show me the thing, and I looked at the syllabus, and it was basically even the pro license. Okay, you go and have into a lecture theatre and start talking about profit and loss and balance sheets and all that. Well, all due respect, it's nice to know a little bit about it and how it works, but I think that if you're a first team coach or a first team manager, that's outside your remit. You know what I mean? You tend to be working with agents, etc., which I think was the better way to go. You know what I mean? I can go all over the place with this conversation. You've only got to look at one of the agents last week, bought £11 million of worth of horses at a livestock sale. 11, what do they call it? Bloodstock sale. Beg your pardon. £11 million worth of horses with his partner. That's a football agent. Do you know what I mean? So you look at it, the traditional way of doing things, and I thought tried and trusted. And you say, well, so what's the problem? Haven't you got any belief in your own system? If you ain't got belief in your own system, then the system's wrong. And then, which I always knew it was a fundraising exercise. So I would have 32 candidates on a course with another coach, 16 in each group, and they've paid X amount of £100 to be on it. Well, it was like 32 grand a course. We got paid a fraction of that for a week's work, from 8:45 in the morning till 5:30 at night. They get the qualification. Then you got the next thing. Where English coaches are concerned, a lot of the people I brought through courses who were really fantastic coaches, others didn't come up to the required standard at the time. But what they were doing, they were getting qualifications so they could come work in places like Canada, the USA, Scandinavia, and sort of do is a second job maybe. I don't know. But the inevitability that came out of it was there was never ever enough jobs to go round. So if there's not enough jobs to go around, what's the point in taking the coaching qualifications? You might get a job in the school. Well, it's just glorified babysitting. You might be able to run your own soccer school. Again, it's glorified babysitting. And I'm talking about jobs in the pro game. There was never ever enough jobs in the pro game for good coaches. You know what I mean? Some of them revered, who I even looked up to. And I was deemed a decent coach. But like I said, and I showed certain staff coaches things, and they're like, "Hell, F me, Sits, you've showed me something there, and this was on a course. You've taught me something there today." And that, sometimes that would be reciprocated. You'd learn from them. Going back to way back, it all ties in with the style of football. Gareth Southgate, I can assure you, never invented playing through the three thirds. Down through the England age groups and then with the full national side. That was happening 34 years ago when I went to Liddishaw in 1990 and at Chelsea in 1974. Dave Sexton and Dario Gradi, and one or two other clubs. They were always trying to coach and advocate playing through the three thirds, getting the goalkeeper to roll the ball out. That's not a new phenomenon. Then you look at the thing in 1990, Lillishall, John Cartwright, who was a disciple, self-made man, good, fantastic coach, also a disciple of Malcolm Allison, who was another revered coach. The FA were frightened of him. All these people were meant to come together and be like be used for brainstorming, like a brains trust, like a football brains trust. John Cartwright and Dario Gradi were meant to take two England age groups and had a fallout with the director of coaching at the time, Charles Hughes. Well, they always played through the three thirds. Now I'm going back 34 years. Then we're going to play like Germany. Then we're going to play like Spain. Then we're going to try and be a little bit of France. Then we've got to get more, which we never have been, a little bit more streetwise and feral like the Argentinians and the Spanish. Then we're going to go Spanish again. And then. You know what I mean? So you've got all these self-imposed fences to jump, manufactured, and the hypocrisy and the economy with the truth with regards to playing styles. But when it comes down to it, very quickly, Rob, just to summarise, there's never ever been enough jobs. So then I'm looking at it, if there's not enough jobs, our English coach is going to get a chance. When they do get a chance, inevitably, it's one of the bread and butter clubs, let's say. Where the budget's run by old Mother Hubbard, and there's not agents who can afford £11 million worth of horses with their partner because they've had so much money out of the game. They've got a very strict budget, and as a consequence, you're restricted with the players you've got at your disposal. So then they don't get the recognition because they're not winning any trophies. They can't cherry pick the next job. Consequently, they don't become high profile, which is exactly what's happening with Tuchel and supposedly one or two of the others that they were interested in. Guardiola wouldn't even entertain it, according to the reports on the radio. So he said, I ain't heard anything. I never heard anything. He's just, to him, it was, I'm assuming, a non-starter. You know what I mean?
Well, like I say, there's a few people that are claiming they've never heard anything. Just going back a little bit to what you said, I think it's Bullingham, Mark Bullingham. He's the head shed at the FA at the moment, and he's the
Yep.
one doing all the talking.
Yep.
Comment about some not being up for it. That's, I mean, for any job interview really, let alone managing your
Yeah.
country, because supposedly there were some English interviewed, even though neither apparently was the two candidates that all the bookies have mentioned for the last God knows how many months.
Mm.
So, like you say, who on earth were the English? Who were
Yeah.
the English candidates that were
Yeah.
interviewed but not
Well,
been up for it?
I've still
That's
got
a
it
very
run.
odd one.
Yeah. Listen, I got a call last week, um, just to fill me out about a non-league job, and I said, yeah, I'd be interested. So, right, well, I'll talk to the owner. The budget is this, which is a fairly decent budget, and I think you can either cut the conversation stone dead and just say I'm totally not interested. Thanks anyway for making the call, or you can give an inclination that you'd be interested, um, and then see what happens next. Because obviously I'll have more questions than them than they'd have for me.
Yeah,
Um, but one thing you don't do, especially with the England job, unless they were frightened, you don't dismiss it or show that you're in inverted commas not up for it. And if he was up for it, if he is up for it, I tied myself in knots and went off at a tangent a bit. I want to know. This is what I was going to say earlier, Rob. It makes no sense to me whatsoever. Um, for someone to carry on in a caretaker capacity, I don't understand why he's not thrown in straight away. Why wait
yeah,
until? Why wait? What's that about? Waiting until next January? Surely. And these are the type of people who are making the decisions. By the way, I'll be sitting there around the table and I'll be saying, surely, if we're going to appoint this guy, we want him involved with the players and the coaching system. And although I've never been up there, I used to go. Used to go to Bisham Abbey or what was the other gaff, Lilleshall, right? I've never been to St George's Park, but I'd be saying if we're going to appoint this guy, I want him involved with the players straight away. I want him involved in St George's Park straight away. I want to see how he interacts with the players during the next two camps in the European Nations League. Carsley can either be dismissed or drop back down to the age group where he was. Which if he's listen, I'm not that tribal, and now I've discovered and looked into the history that there's no doubt about it whatsoever. It's without question. They've got massive gripe with what happened to them historically, the Irish, right? But if he's going to go down that route and say, well, I got capped by the Republic, I'm not going to be singing the national anthem, then you're not having the job. Simple as that. I want all the players, I want all the staff singing the national anthem the same way they do when we play a foreign team. And you see the intensity, you see the passion, and you see the desire, you see the love for the country, right? So if you're not thinking, just say, okay, I don't care how good a coach you are. There's someone as good as you. There'll always be someone as good as you. You're not having the job, right? When it comes to the new guy, I would want him involved absolutely as soon as humanly possible. I don't understand him not being entertained until January, right? So then he's got 18 months running up to the summer of 2026 with USA, Canada, Mexico World Cup, which begs the next question. If you're going to appoint him, why not get him involved straight away? The second question being, why you only, if you're that convinced about him, why are you only giving him 18 months when Southgate had 8 years? If you think that this guy can get us over the line, and to quote him, I want to put another star on that shirt, then why are you only giving him 18 months? Because you can't build something in 18 months, not even on a day-to-day basis at a club. It needs to be 18-month cycles, right? So you could take you 18 months to gear towards one promotion. And then rather than consolidation, push on again. Well, it's the same with the national side. You've got to be, it's got to be like a club unit, like a little bit like Southgate had, a club unit within the country, within the national, the country's national side. So it's like that club feel about it in terms of atmosphere, camaraderie, but in particular, the organisation. What was nice for me was the comments what I heard last night on Match of the Day too from one of the so-called most revered managers in the game. past and present. That was Benitez. He never said anything different, and that's on my grandson, who I had Sunday dinner with last night, 5 years old. You know what I mean? He means the world to me. He never said more or less verbatim. You know what I mean? Talking last night about how you should rehearse during the week to get ready for a game on a Saturday, and it's like little details, and you should leave no stone unturned. Paraphrasing, but etc. etc. You should cater for this scenario, cater for this scenario, cater for this, which is um, what I tried to do, and that was refreshing to me, and it was a nice reinforcement for me. But sticking to the thing, I don't get none of the logic behind it, really.
Well, to me, the 18-month thing, I was going to bring up, but Handley, you've done the job for me, as per usual. But it just seems a little bit messy to me because we touched on it last week ever so slightly. Carsley's post-match interview, can't remember if it was after Finland or Greece, where he sort of basically fluffed his lines and pretty much said, well, I haven't applied. I want to go back to the under-21s. So pretty much signed himself off from it.
Yeah.
You got to think at that point, he must have had an inkling that Tuchel was coming in. It was only 24, 48 hours later that Tuchel was announced. And then we announced Tuchel seemingly in a little bit out of the blue. Was that because the FA thought clubs were sniffing around and were going to get him or not? I don't know. But then to announce it's only 18 months, but he can stay on holiday for the next 3 months or so until January or February, whenever this Nations League finishes. It's just bonkers, isn't it? Like,
It is bonkers unless they're trying to take the pressure off a little bit and take him out of the firing line, so there's no pressure on him in what amounts to 2 glorified friendlies, really.
Yeah, that's all I can think of.
Yeah. And for him to start with a clean slate in January, but I just think if in terms of influence, get him in straight away. In terms of getting to know the players and running a couple of camps, get him in straight away. So you get a vibe, you know what I mean? You players, you can feed off of what they give you. Where the other guys and they can feed off of you. They can feed off of you whatever energy you're giving across. You know what I mean? He strikes me as a type of guy. He won't suffer idiots, that's for sure. I saw that at Chelsea, one of my old clubs, in terms of how he came across there, both in the media and with regards to how he handled the team. As you'd expect of a German, you know, very, very forensic and very clear thinking. You know what I mean? But going back to the other geezer, I mean, I don't know if it was him or whether it was one of the players. I'll be honest with you, but he slit his own throat when he said, or someone said, "Yeah, we worked on it yesterday for 25 minutes." That showed you how shambolic the preparation was, and I think it was manifested itself in the game. And even I saw probably no more than 15 minutes of it. Greece had 3 disallowed, and we ended up getting beat. You know what I mean? And I think it's the first time they've ever beat us. I'm pretty sure it is. And it was a statistic to come out of it. So here's a couple of 3 things at play. I mean, this is only me. If you know you're only going to be in a situation for 6 games, one thing I wouldn't do is I wouldn't have disturbed it too much. Right? I wouldn't have disturbed it too much. Maybe that's come from experience that I've had. Went in to try and make too many changes too soon, sweeping changes, right? I wouldn't have disturbed it too much in the aftermath of Gareth Southgate, right? That leads you to point 2. You ain't got to worry about, we only worked on it for 25 minutes yesterday. You stick with something very familiar, something that the players are comfortable with, and then you can add layers.
Yeah,
you get what I mean, and your own little ideas and nuances. But that's where I think that went wrong. And then I looked at it and I thought, no communication, no leaders, no one boss in it, shambolic defending, gaps between back and midfield too big, gaps between midfield and front too big, started with no forwards. What's that about? Okay, I can understand Kane, but then you had Watkins, who had an unbelievable tournament, and then like we said last time, the guy who bought out the international wilderness after 7 years and sticks him on the bench for 10. What's the point in calling him up if you ain't going to play him? Especially if you know Harry Kane's not fit. So there's all these little contradictions and strange decisions that I'm struggling with. But there's massive questions to be asked, really, of the FA. In terms of the qualification, You've got to look at yourself. If it's not good enough, if it's that good, how comes English coaches are not coming through? Even down to the Championship, you're getting foreign managers in the Championship. You know what I mean? That's not even in inverted commas again the pathway where, like, one of my old teammates, Steve Bruce, I think it was him or Sam that said it, Sam Allardyce. Allardyce. The only way you get recognition as an English coach is if you start with a Championship side, get promoted into the Premier. And that's the only way you could get a Premier League job is by getting them up yourself, getting them promoted yourself, and that's how you got your recognition. But that don't even seem to be the case now, because a lot of the high-ranking Championship clubs have got foreign managers as well.
Yeah. Just
Anyway,
to sort of, yeah, just to sort of circle back a little bit and conclude this episode with the England manager or English managers. Because we've established we're not too sure who the English people that were interviewed for the job were.
yeah, we
Mentioned,
couldn't find 10. Rob, we couldn't
well,
find
yeah,
10. We
maybe
couldn't.
we'll
We
do an
couldn't
episode on
name. We
that.
couldn't even name 10.
We'll do a phone in, John. We'll name the 10 managers and we'll see if we can find out who they were. But you said earlier, English managers, you wouldn't see them getting the German job, the Spanish job, the Italian job. No pun intended. You don't, yeah, you don't see him getting, or many, certainly not these days, the top club jobs at those nations. So
That's right.
what,
Yeah.
so what chance have we got of appointing a top England manager or coach to our national team? I've got a few little stats here. I mean, in the Premier League, I think there's 3 or 4 English managers. Try and think of them while I waffle on for 30 seconds or so. But the last domestic trophy in England, apparently won by an English manager, was Harry Redknapp.
Yeah.
Winning the FA Cup with the club down the road who I can't mention.
Yeah. Well,
That's east down the M27 for anyone who don't know where I live.
Portsmouth.
That's them. The last top flight title won by an English manager was Howard
Wilkinson.
Wilkinson.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So I should ask you these really, shouldn't I, instead of just
No,
stating
it's
them.
cool. It's cool. Yeah.
So
Perhaps we listen. Perhaps we shouldn't be surprised. We've had an Indian Prime Minister. All I can say in the closing summary, right before we go on to episode 2, and everyone, please stay tuned and thank you for watching this one. And please watch, like, share, subscribe. Right, we've had an Indian Prime Minister. Look how that turned out. We've got a mayor of our capital city, who I believe is from Pakistani descent. So maybe it's a reflection of society. We've gone outside for the so-called talent. Let's hope that the England manager's appointment pans out better than the appointment of the Prime Minister and the Mayor. Looking at the mess they've both left.
Well, I don't think there's any better sentence we can leave an episode about the appointment of the New England manager on than what you just said there, John. So I'll just underline your sense of thanks, and please continue to watch and share and subscribe, and we'll be back to record another one very shortly on the weekend's Premier League, where I know John's got a few other strong views. So
yeah, listen, I've got strong views on this, but I've had to tone them down. Believe me, I don't want to get myself in trouble again. Cheers, Rob. Thanks for your time. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for watching.
Thanks all.
See you in part 2.